I think we are almost all here. So our cocktail hour lasts for another 5 minutes, but I want to just say, okay, so for all of you who have just kind of come in recently, this meeting has people from around the country and around the world. So I'm just going to go through names, and I want you to kind of wave to people. So I'm gonna talk about people who are not local to Indianapolis. Okay, so I want to welcome Barbara Herbert, who is coming to our meeting from Cincinnati. And many of you know Barbara. It's so wonderful to have you here.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, B.
And then we have Joe
Wherever you are.
from St. Louis, or just outside of St. Louis.
Oh,
Joe,
Joe.
great friend. Hello,
Hey, Joe.
Hi,
Hi, Joe.
how are you?
Welcome.
Hey.
Hi.
So wonderful
Long
to have
time,
you
no
here.
COVID.
And then
Pardon?
Alan Schmidt, the Schmetzers. I'm sorry, I can't say your name. Schmetzers. Hello, hi. Where do you live now? I can't remember.
Silver Spring, Maryland.
Right, yeah.
All right, but they were locals.
Yeah.
They were locals, and they moved to Maryland. But it's wonderful to have you back with the clients. Let me see.
Good to be here.
I'm going through the list, and then I want to particularly draw your attention to Fabienne Carouge, who is from Paris, France this evening.
Hi. Bonjour. Bonne nuit.
Wonderful.
Bonsoir.
Hi everyone. Bonjour, bonsoir tout le monde. I crack open a bottle of wine for you.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Merci.
I cracked open a bottle of gin for you.
Oh, thank you.
And then, of course, Regina Stinson from
Hey, Regina.
Hey, Regina.
from Michigan.
Hey,
Of course,
see everybody.
Regina has become one of our most faithful attending members, so I almost don't even feel like she's not local. Let me see. Well,
Michigan,
yes, Michigan.
Detroit area.
Right. I think that is.
And don't forget Malcolm, he's coming in from Florida.
Yes.
Are you in Florida?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
we're in Florida.
well,
Where else is there to be?
well, I wish I was there.
Oh, rub it
If
in.
you can manage it, it's a great place to be.
Ouch.
Where are they?
Florida.
Florida. Well,
Two more, Steve. You forgot that Teresa and I no longer live in Indianapolis.
well,
Oh.
this is true, Don.
Come all the way from Yorktown.
Yorktown is close enough.
Yes, Don and Teresa are coming to us from Anderson, right?
No, Yorktown.
Yorktown,
I thought it was Gas City.
West Muncie.
Yeah, West Muncie, that's it.
Okay.
Still central Indiana, so.
It's so
Oh,
close.
yeah, we're not that far away.
Steve, did you say someone is from Seattle? Did I hear that?
No, I don't think we have anybody from.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just-
Tennessee. I'm in Tennessee.
Oh, that's
okay.
right, Kathy.
You're in Tennessee tonight. You are.
Yeah, I'm living in Tennessee right now.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Who is this?
Kathy.
Steve, who is this?
Kathy
Oh,
Groff.
Kathy.
Oh, I didn't see Kathy.
We can't
Well,
see
he sees
her.
her shoulder. Sees
Kathy,
her
we
hip.
see your chin.
We can see her chest.
Hey, I'm not good.
Oh,
We
there
can't
she
see her.
is.
We can't see her face.
There she is. Yay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Where-
I have St. Patty's. Can you see that?
Where in Tennessee?
Well, really, we literally can. only-
Monteagle area?
Oh, yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah, on the mountain.
Yeah, we got stuck on the mountain there one year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Water pump went out. I have definitely spent the night in Monteagle on my way to Florida.
So you've been to the smokehouse?
Right.
Yeah. That's where my church is, in Monteagle. I'm actually in Tracy City, a little bit 20 minutes from there on the mountain. But I say Monteagle because most people know because it's off of 24.
Right.
About an hour from Murfreesboro. My cousin lives in Murfreesboro. Not her. But I'm going back and forth between Syracuse, Indiana. My dad is very ill in Tennessee, so I'm driving back and forth. He's got cancer.
Oh, so sorry.
So, but I'm blessed. I can take care of him.
Well, I think we are
The
coming
nurse
right
from
up to our
Dr. Rex.
the formal beginning
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the actual meeting.
I'm gonna go get a drink. I'll be right back.
All right, everybody get a drink. Everybody get ready because in 2
Sorry,
minutes.
cocktail hour's over.
Yes, in 2 minutes we
Door's
start the
closed.
formal meeting.
Do we have to stop drinking?
No, of course not. But I
Steve,
Now we have to drink straight from the bottle.
yeah. Steve,
yes.
where are the boys?
Well, the boys are upstairs. They are not invited to the meeting.
Can you put the cat cam on?
There is no cat cam down here. We're in a cat-free zone.
Don't you think they should have a cat cam, knowing how they behave?
Well, they should because they are absolute characters. But yeah, they're not. They don't come down here. Oh my gosh! I can imagine the havoc they would wreak down here.
The problem is that the boys are underage and therefore cannot
Yes.
attend meetings.
That's right.
There you go.
They're not. They are not in of age to attend an alcohol-friendly.
Here's your cat.
Hi, Susan.
Hello, kitty. You know, it seems appropriate to have cats at this particular meeting. Is this our only cat-related story title that we have?
Is it? I'm not sure. It may be.
I think it is.
I'm just back from the bar, and they serve their whiskey very interesting. They actually use rocks. It's not ice cubes. These are actually
No, whiskey
solid
stones.
rocks
Talk about whiskey on the rocks.
that you go and you drop in the glass, and they're cold and they don't dilute the whiskey.
Do you
Well,
freeze them?
Well, why do you think they call it whiskey on the rocks? Because there really were rocks originally.
Well, we've lost track to our roots, all I can say.
Summertime and the rocks are hot.
Plunge.
So to speak.
All right. Well, I think it's time to actually formally convene this meeting of the Illustrious Clients in Indianapolis. I'm so grateful to see you all here, and I am very grateful for our guests and our distant visitors. I do not believe we've ever had a visitor from Paris, France. I think that is absolutely amazing. So let's all welcome Fabienne to our meeting.
Welcome, Fabian. Bonjour.
And of course, all our members who are not here from Indianapolis.
I must say, I won't attend all the meeting, I think, because it's almost 1 a.m. here. So I don't think I will stay all along, but well,
right. Do not feel like you have to stay for the whole meeting.
Maybe I'll stay, but I'll sleep on the couch. Won't see me anymore.
Well, anyway, I'm so grateful that everybody's here. And as you all know, I'm not a fan of the online meetings. I don't want to use the term virtual because that implies that a meeting is not, that when you use the term virtual, it implies that somehow it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly this is a real meeting. So I'm going to use the term online meeting. And
We'll allow you to do that.
yeah, we've managed to maintain a live schedule, in-person, like real schedule, throughout the year. But of course, we're sort of in the in a spike of the pandemic, and even though the with the vaccines are coming and the cavalry is on the horizon, but we're not quite there yet. So here we are. And it's a good thing because, everybody's here and it's wonderful. So I want to say that, I'm very grateful to see everybody here. It's truly wonderful. So let's start the meeting. I'm going to start it with by saying that I'm reminding everybody who's here to that when we resume our live meetings, which I hope will be sooner than later, I want to remind everybody that the Granger Fund exists to defray costs for people who maybe have a financial reason that they can't attend the meeting. We establish this fund because I want to stress this is not a charity fund. The clients want our members there. Our meetings are better because we have everybody there. So in a way, it's kind of a selfish fund. If you have a financial hardship or a tight month, let us know and we will help you get here because it is in our interest that you come. So I just want to remind everybody that
It's totally anonymous.
It's totally anonymous. It really is. It's absolutely anonymous, and it's fully funded, and it stands ready to help all our members attend an in-person clients meeting. So I want to remind everybody of that.
Steve, just wanted to mention, I did put a little bit about the Granger Fund in the diary coming out for the next newsletter.
Thank you for that. I really mean that. It is something that we put in place. I'm just going to speak personally for a moment. I love everybody in this club, and it is it pains me to think that someone can't come because they're having a tight month financially, and that should not be a barrier. And it is not a barrier with our club. We have this fund that is fully funded to help everybody come to a meeting. Nobody knows about it. Nobody knows who uses it. Even I don't know. And it is fully funded and stands ready to help everybody. So please, if you need it or if you know someone who needs it, I'm just urging everybody to do not be shy about it. Please don't. Our club is, the strength in our club is everybody comes to the meeting and contributes what they have to offer. So with that said, I have a few announcements. Let me see, where's my calendar? I want to I also want to say that I want to make an announcement that our coming year, 2021, is the 75th anniversary of the Illustrious Clients. You believe that?
Wow.
75 years. I remember when we celebrated the 50th anniversary. Don, do you remember that?
Indeed, I do. Like it was a couple of weeks ago.
I know. Can you believe it's been that long? Here we are. We celebrated 50th anniversary, and here we are at 25. It's amazing. It truly is.
Bigger and better all the time.
Yeah, it really is. So I want you to, to know that as we emerge from the pandemic and we resume in-person meetings, we are going to have a fantastic 2021.
I'm going to hold you to that.
I'm going to hold you to coming, sir.
I second that motion.
I'm like a ghost, I know.
Seriously, we're gonna take every single meeting of 2021 up a level. So I want you all to think about that.
You mean by having me there? That's so sweet.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Okay, so I want to announce the planning meeting for our January meeting. I want to, well, first thing I want to say is the January Victorian dinner has been moved to January 30th. We wanted to push it back a bit in order to give it some time, you know, put a little time between now and then, in the hopes that the pandemic and the lockdown and all that business will be better. It may not be, it may be, we don't know. But yes.
Is that the planning meeting or the regular schedule?
That is the regular scheduled meeting.
All right, okay.
A regular scheduled meeting of the Illustrious Clients in January will be January 30th.
But we don't have a venue yet.
No, we don't, but that's all right. Which means the planning meeting will be Sunday. Now, mark your calendars. I'll send out an email about this, but
Send out 4 of them.
yeah, I'll send out 4 emails about this. The planning meeting will be Sunday at 2 p.m. on January 17th.
17.
Yes.
January 17. And the meeting will be hopefully an in-person meeting?
Well, we will see.
EBD.
Yes,
Right.
to be determined.
Steve, that's just 2 weeks before the actual meeting date. Should we try to line up a meeting location prior to the 17th?
Well, we might want to. I mean, we might need to. I mean, it's all going to depend on whether we're virtual again or whether we are in person.
Okay.
Actually, let me, that's a good point, Mike. I'm looking at the calendar here. Okay, I'm changing that. All right. Planning meeting January 10th, Sunday, January 10th at 2 p.m.
You might want to book a place tentatively even before that.
But whether we are live or here in the, we don't know yet. We just don't know.
No, I'd point out the current rules on restaurants is that buffets are out under the guidelines. So it has to be a plated meal. The idea of the pitch-in could be a little iffy that we've used in the past.
Right. Well, that is all to be determined. We have to just, we have to see how things play out. But one way or another, whether it's live or online.
Who's that? It's the front of the car.
January 30th.
Oh. I don't have the audio on. So.
Are people talking?
Yeah, it's the meeting's going on.
I'm hearing something in the background.
Somebody's talking.
Are we good?
It's
all right.
not me.
Okay. Great.
iPhone.
All right. Does anybody else have any further announcements for before we go further in the meeting?
Steve, I have an announcement.
Yes.
December 17th, which is just a few days away, and 3 years ago was when we lost Meredith. So I thought we could have a toast.
Well, I think that's a fine idea.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yes. Let's have a toast to Meredith Granger, one of our most faithful and loyal clients, and who is sincerely missed to this day.
Absolutely. In fact, I've noticed how many people have attributed their membership to the fact that they met up with Meredith and he brought them to the clients.
All right. So raise your glass in memory of Meredith Granger.
Here, here.
Here, here. Thank you, Teresa. I'm very grateful for that. Anybody else have any announcements?
Wife?
Pardon me?
Is anyone in touch with his widow?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Tony was at our last meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was not at the last meeting.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good. I'm glad to know that she was there.
Well, and actually, Tony was RSVP'd for this meeting, so but she's not here. So,
Well, I'm glad to know you've seen her that recently. That's good to know. Thank
and
you.
she is actually scheduled to close the meeting with 221B. So she's not here. So if anybody wants to step up for that later on, let me know.
Steve, I do have something. Me and one of the members whose name, unfortunately, I cannot remember this lady's name, and she's not at our meeting because she says she can't handle the virtual. This past Sunday, we were at the Games of Foot play that the Belfry Theater was doing in Noblesville at one of the big churches, and everybody was spread apart. There was only 50 people allowed and everything. And the entire run of that show has sold out. All 3 weekends have sold out. And it was a delight, you know, and of course, we giggled when it came time for him to put on his, you know, his multicolored robe. So dressing gown, excuse me. So, but yeah, it was fun to see it. And the crowds really enjoyed it. And, you know, they did all the things. The actors actually had on a plastic clear mask that went around their thing and fixed so that it went from their chin up over their nose. So it didn't adhere or bother with the mic they had on, and it worked out fine. And I've heard no reports of anybody getting sick or anything. So they did all the right things, and you could actually see live theater, and it happened to be a Sherlock Holmes based event. So,
well, that's fantastic. That's great.
I think that was Cindy Baker who was there,
thank
right?
you, thank you. Yes, thank you, Louise. God, I couldn't remember her name to save my life. And it's hard sometimes to understand who people are when all you see is this, you know.
Right. That's true. It's so true. Well, that is great. Thank you, Mary. Anybody else have any announcements for the?
Mike does.
Yeah, Mike.
I just wanted to mention real briefly, and if anyone was at the Red Circle earlier, you heard Peter Blau mention it, that Barbara Herbert is here, and her late husband, Paul. The bulk of his estate is going to be auctioned off in January, starting on Holmes's birthday, January 6th. So more information is going to be coming in Peter's newsletter, Scuttlebutt from the Spermaceti Press, but it will be on Everything But the House, starting on January 6th. And
It starts at $1,
yeah,
and there's no reserve.
Oh.
so there will be everything from really accessible stuff to insane stuff and everything in between.
I think Paul would be happy with that. Everybody, some of the higher items, everybody will have a chance. It'll start at $1 with no reserve.
Will the link and information about that be sent to the club?
I'm sure it will, because Peter Blau's going to put it in his newsletter and on social media.
Okay,
we will find it and share it.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
I just want to say that Paul and Barbara both were faithful members. Well, Barbara still is a faithful member of the Clients. You know, when the club.
I forgot my dues, but I'm going to pay them.
They're not due till the 1st of January. You're okay.
Okay.
When the club reactivated in the 1970s, like 1977, 78, Paul and Barbara were one of the first members to be in that first wave of the reactivated Clients. Paul was a tremendous shellacking collector, and so if you are interested in this, do not. I mean, it is. I'm sure it's going to be something else. So
It'll start January 6th at 2 a.m. in the morning. They'll put on the 200 items, and it'll go through the 10th at 8 o'clock. So it's like a vendor's room at the weekend, actually, in a way.
That's a good way of putting it.
Hey, we should have Debbie Hall say you're not allowed in yet.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Well, are there any other announcements, before we go forward from here?
I just want to
You're
know.
all invited to the next Paris Circle meeting. That
Well,
was my announcement.
Oh, nice.
it's wonderful. You know, okay, so here's how this went. So I was invited. So Fabienne invited me to actually asked me to be interviewed for her. She has a tremendous online Sherlockian magazine called La Gazette, and it is wonderful.
La Gazette du 221B.
Yeah, put
La
it.
Gazette
Put
of
the
the
link in the chat. Seriously, do that. And
what?
put the link to your magazine in the
Oh,
chat.
I'm gonna show you the first page of the last. Well, I don't. I'm not sure you can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll put the link in the. Okay, but I'm very. I wanted to say. I really want to thank Stephen for inviting me tonight, because it's very nice to see you all the members. I've been watching a bit your activities on Facebook, but it's really great to see you all.
Well, it's nice to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I would recommend her. I mean, her online magazine is in French, but there is an English version of it, so you can read it, and it is really great. I just, you know.
Yeah, actually, the magazine itself is in French, because well, that's my language, and but as I get a lot of articles and interviews in English that I translate for the magazine, I told myself it would be a waste to put them away. And so I say maybe it could please some international readers. So I made a section in the website for English version of a selection of articles. I don't translate the French article in English. I'm not sure I would be able, but the article in English that I translate in French, I put the original version on the website. So now,
Steve, maybe you could put that link in the newsletter for us.
I will do that. I would.
I did. I just shared the link.
So it's in the chat, and I will include it in the newsletter because.
Oh, thank you.
Right. So how this happened was, I put out some information about the resurrection of the Sherlock Holmes Review, and Fabienne asked me to be interviewed in her online magazine. And so then she asked me to, she invited me to attend one of her meetings of her French group, which was really fun because I was the only person there who could not speak French. And so they all began speaking English. And so, which, I felt terrible about it. It's like, oh, you're all having to speak a foreign language just because I'm there, So, but it was really
but don't worry, Stephen. Actually, when you're a French or Italian or a German Sherlockian, the first thing you have to do is to learn to speak English.
Mm-hmm.
I improve my English like a bookworm by reading a lot of books and articles that had not been translated in French. So for every French Sherlockian, and certainly all nuns, oh, my hair. The first thing you have to do is to understand English. So it's a second nature for us to speak English. So don't feel terrible about that.
Well, I'm very grateful for that because I felt terrible
everybody.
because I came into the room, into the Zoom space or whatever the thing was, and they're all speaking French, and all of a sudden they all switched to English, and I felt like, oh, you know, here I am, the American
I
who
speak
can't
you
speak
French when
French,
you want.
you know. So anyway, I reciprocated that invitation by inviting her to come to our meeting tonight. So here she is. So
And I want to
Nice,
thank you
nice
for
to
that.
have her.
yeah, it's wonderful. So thank you so much for coming. It's
And thank you for
Yes,
staying
thank you.
so late to attend, because if it's like after 1 a.m. or something there, we appreciate your dedication.
No, I've been very excited. I was very excited about tonight, all the day. So, and I actually I had a nap, so I could be well rested to be with you.
Fabienne, Fabienne,
Fabienne.
Fabienne, nous sommes heureux à faire votre connaissance.
Oh, I'm very happy to get to know you too. Thank you.
wow, Marianne,
Yes.
I'm totally impressed.
No, college French, it's ancient.
That's so great.
Hey, Steven,
Well,
I'm actually on the site right now, and it appears your name is spelled exactly the same in French as it is in English.
there you go.
I want to know that. That's pretty cool, huh? You're like international and stuff.
Given what the English do to names, that's sometimes a surprise, actually.
Yeah, right.
That's very funny. Well, anyway, okay, let's go. Let's forge ahead, all right? So tonight our meeting is devoted to the story The Lion's Mane. Now, I know this is not the greatest story on earth, but it has points of interest. So we have a number of toasts lined up, and I'm going to call on people who have volunteered to give toasts. And so my first person who I will call on, well, Elisa's not here. Is she? She's not, right?
Haven't seen her.
Yeah, she's not. She didn't make it. She was down for Maud Bellamy. All right, we're gonna start. I'm gonna go first. My toast. Oops, hold on a second here, everybody. Sorry. All right. I volunteered to toast Fitzroy McPherson. Fitzroy McPherson is not only the MacGuffin of the story, the person who suffered the effects of the lion's mane, but he also seems to be one of the few friends that Sherlock Holmes made in his retirement. Holmes, as you know, was had very few friends. In fact, the only friend that we actually can confirm was Dr. Watson. So the fact that we see Holmes in retirement having a relationship with someone in his retirement is kind of reassuring and nice. But of course, there you go. He dies, right? So I want to toast Fitzroy McPherson, one of the few friends of Sherlock Holmes. And we had to wait all the way to the lion's mane to see him. So raise your glasses to Fitzroy McPherson, friend of Sherlock Holmes.
Here, here.
And now I would like to call on Regina Stinson to actually toast the lion's mane.
Okay. Mine is kind of a poem. Floating about the pellucid pool on a beautiful summer's day, a jellyfish dined on plankton and fish and other such suitable prey. Ever so slowly, the huge creature pulsated without a single care, its flowing tentacles silver and gold, like a lion's lustrous hair. Suddenly, a strangely shaped being disrupted the jelly's feast. Disturbed and frightened, the animal stirred to avoid this dreadful beast. The pool was small and the jellyfish large, its tentacles sticky and long, found their way to the fellow's back with a sting that was painful and strong. It languished about while the fellow got out of the water with ardent intent. The poor jellyfish had done nothing amiss, just followed its natural bent. In haste did the master cause its disaster by striking with frenzy-like mania. The true victim in this was plainly the fish. Let us cheer Capillata Cyanea. You're here.
Cheers.
You're here. All right.
Toast just for the poet.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thanks.
All right. Now I would like to call on Mark Walters, who has offered to offer a toast to the old housekeeper.
So I was intrigued that Holmes mentioned an old housekeeper. So I have a short little poem for that. And it starts as, Mrs. Hudson, are you there? Who is giving Holmes good care? No matter, long-suffering you must be. So, one thing on which we will agree, a toast to you is well deserved, for looking after Holmes can get on one's nerves. Here's to the old housekeeper.
Here, all right.
Here, here.
Well done, sir. All right. Well, that brings us to our last toast.
Steve,
Yes.
could I, after the last toast, could I take the place of Elisa's toast that's
You
over?
sure? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure.
You mean right now?
Yeah, go.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is kind of a sentimental point of personal history of mine with Sherlockiana. It was not until my last year in law school that I had time to do other constructive reading and law books. And much of my time between class was spent across the street on Indiana Avenue in Bloomington, Indiana, but at this great coaching facility called the Gables. To the Gables of Bloomington, Indiana.
Yes.
No alcohol was served there, by the way.
I'm well acquainted with the
Isn't that Hoagie Carmichael's spot, Mike?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Oh, I forgot about Hoagie. Yeah.
Well, that's right. That's where he wrote Stardust.
Right.
Yeah, I guess. Very well acquainted with the Gables. And so our last toast of the evening is to Sherlock Holmes himself from Louise Haskett.
Well, I brought toast. Is that right? and I brought honey. This is actually honey from our field trip in the summer at the bee farm. And this particular honey is infused with bourbon because it was in a bourbon barrel. So therefore, I brought bourbon because I am doing a toast to Sherlock Holmes, who retired to keep bees and make honey. So there's a whole, feeling there. The Adventure of the Lion's Mane is written by Holmes and gives us a glimpse of his life in retirement. And there have been some questions about his authorship of the story, and there has been some question as to why an urban person, one who sat with his finger upon the pulse of the London criminal scene, whose very brain is described as dangerous to leave without material upon which to work, why would he choose a solitary life of a beekeeper at the peak of his career? Baring Gould and other of the scholars generally agree that Holmes retired around 1903 or 4 at the approximate age of 50. His place in the lion's mane is probably 1907, as it says in the text, or maybe 1909, as Baring Gould places it, but several years after retirement. And I will beg your indulgence for just a minute while I relate a personal anecdote. My mother, who was a woman with a very keen mind, possibly as keen as the master himself, never lived in a town smaller than Indianapolis, nor a place with, less cultural activities as Indianapolis. And yet, at approximately the same age as Sherlock, she confounded everyone who'd ever known her by saying that she had always wanted to live on a farm. Even her own sister had never heard her say this before. And so she and my father retired to a few rural acres to live an agrarian, self-sufficient life. And she relished in the lack of deadlines, and she took up new hobbies, and she did some writing. She grew and canned fruits and vegetables. Sorry, that's my phone. She found a new purpose in life, and therefore I do not find any anomaly in Holmes's choice of setting up a new residence, as he described, upon the southern slope of the downs, commanding a great view of the channel. There he could work, or not, at his own pace, enjoying that soothing life of nature, and occasionally choosing to write down some of the minor adventures that occurred without his Boswell at his side. The great detective still had his keen faculties. So I raise my glass to toast Sherlock Holmes, retiree and beekeeper, who had the resolve to find a change of venue and a new calling best suited to his midlife persona, a man comfortable in his own being. I give you Sherlock Holmes.
Here,
Here.
Thank you so much, Louise. Well, that concludes our toast for the meeting. Now that brings us to the occasion of our what I like to call Sherlockian show and tell. It's that moment of the meeting where if anybody has anything to share of interest, personally or whatever, now's the time to do it. So I'm going to start. I have two things. One's long, one's short. I'm going to start. I want to show and tell the Baker Street Journal Christmas Annual for 2020. I hope you can see it. It will begin mailing out this coming week. So if you are a subscriber to the Baker Street Journal, this is the this issue. It's sort of the bonus issue for the year, and it is devoted to Vincent Sterrett's landmark pastiche, The Unique Hamlet. And anyway, I'm quite proud of it, and I think it's wonderful. And so I just want to let you know that will be coming. So does anybody else have anything of interest they want to share during show and tell?
I'll just show you one thing. I finally found an oily clay to smoke. That one of the pipes that Sherlock Holmes smoked. He never smoked a calabash, but he did smoke an old briar and an oily clay. Here's the oily clay.
So that's what it looks like. Did you all see it?
Yeah.
Ellen, hold it up again.
I'm getting some.
All right.
That.
So how long is that stem, do you think?
The whole pipe is about 7 inches.
And
So
that is a clay pipe. Now, most clay pipes that you see nowadays are white, but they do turn color, don't they?
They do turn color as you smoke them. I had several at home that I smoked, but this one actually was made as a black pipe,
That's so
which looks pretty oily.
Yeah, it does. Well, thank you for that. That's very interesting.
Oh, there you go. She's got a background.
Yep.
Yay.
Dan's the artist in the family.
That's great.
Nothing beats a legal pad for a background.
It worked. It worked.
So does anybody else have anything they wanna share here?
Steve?
Yes.
So you mentioned in the last newsletter, you had an article about Jerry Williamson and
Right.
Morley, and you also mentioned that he lived on a street called Haverford in Broad Ripple.
Yes.
So I was intrigued by that because I lived on a street in Broad Ripple called Haverford when I was a toddler. So I decided to do a little sleuthing, and I ended up with the auditor's office in Indianapolis, explained the situation to this woman who was just really excited and intrigued by the whole thing, and said, well, I'm gonna try to find, the address for this person. So she came up with an address of 4020 Haverford for a Williamson family in 1949.
Wow.
Now, I lived on Haverford probably when I was a toddler. I was born in 53, so 54, 55, something like that. So there is that possibility, but I tried to find 4020 Haverford, and I was not able to find it.
That would be just north of the state fairgrounds.
Exactly. And I went down there and I drove around endlessly.
And that's not Broad Ripple.
No. It's
South Broad Ripple, very, very south.
Yeah, Broad Ripple really ends at Kessler.
So, right. So I'm throwing it out there because this is the information the auditor gave me. And I have to believe she somehow found a record of that. So it's not unheard of that addresses change over the years. They adjust, whatever.
They'll renumber streets and that sort of thing.
Yeah. But if anybody has any more data on that, I'd love to know.
So Mark, 42nd Street runs north of the fairgrounds, so it may have been taken over. That property may have been taken over by the fairgrounds if it had expanded.
I agree that the fairgrounds might have been moved a little bit north from where it was then to where it is now.
Right, because you're right, because Haverford at 46th, Haverford comes to an end. But when you Google Earth it, it shows it at a point where it's no longer there. The road's no longer there.
Yeah.
So longitude and latitude wise, it may have gone on, but they stopped it at 46. I don't know. Anyway, I thought it was kind of interesting. I was somewhat honored that I actually was on the same street that Jerry was at some point.
Right.
So we got a field trip. I think we got a field trip to locate that spot.
Well, we could do a field trip of Jerry Williamson's residences, because that was not his first residence. His first residence was a little further south off of the street off of 38th Street, and it's in a particularly bad neighborhood right now. And
Haverford, just north of the fairgrounds, is not a good neighborhood now either.
Yeah.
Well, that's never stopped us.
It might stop us now. Trust me.
Just stay in a group.
But that, Mark, that is so amazing that you actually went there and drove the street. That is really awesome. That is so great.
And all over the place. I just couldn't find it, but yeah, somewhere around there he was.
Yeah, so it's funny because I Google Earth the address after you emailed me about that, And, you know, the houses along there are very modest.
Right.
They're not, you know, they're not large houses. They're very modest homes. And it's very interesting to me to think that a teenage boy was living in a modest house on Haverford Avenue, writing letters to Vincent Sterrett and Christopher Morley and all these people, and getting responses. And I just find that to be absolutely fascinating. So
He had a lot of chutzpah
he did, right?
for a
He did.
14-year-old.
Right.
Yeah. It's so funny because it's well known that when Jerry Williamson began to write all these eminent Baker Street irregulars, that they didn't know he was a teenager. And they thought, who's this guy? And, you know,
Well, they thought it was his dad, didn't they? At
well,
one point.
they
Chris
it was-
thought he
well,
was,
when, well, the people he was corresponding with, you know, they didn't know he was a teenager. And they thought, who is this? He's, you know, Jerry was always kind of full of himself, right? You know, especially as a kid. And I think that was a sort of a tactic that he had to hide the fact that he was a teenager. Once they figured out that he was, you know, a kid, they sort of cut him some slack. But Jerry was always sort of, you know, he was, even as an adult, he was always sort of full of himself and a little pretentious. And it's kind of funny to see that even manifesting as a teenager. So,
Oh, you know, he should be the poster boy of recruiting young people into the Sherlockian world. Look what he started.
well, he did. We would not all be here tonight if it wasn't for him, right?
Yep.
So,
You know, we have a number of those small Indiana mysteries. We still don't know exactly where at in the Merritt building that the first meeting was held at, even though because the layout has changed. And even though there's a room there where we held a meeting at that has a fireplace in it, it does not match the photographs that we have of that first meeting. So we have that little minor mystery as well.
well, that is true. You are correct about that. That would be something to solve, I think.
That would be something.
Yeah, it would be.
Steve?
Yeah.
The Musgrave
I,
Ritual. Go ahead.
I have a show and tell.
Yeah, go ahead. Great.
Sometimes it's in my collection, it's a first edition of Profile by Gaslight. I'll put it up here. But what makes it unique is the inscription to Vincent Sterrett, to whose private life I owe my original and continuing devotion to the saga, with every affection, Edgar W. Smith.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's neat.
That is really, really amazing.
That's very cool.
And the ink is just dry.
Good one, Marianne.
It looks like a modest item, but it's because of the two people involved. I view it as a real gem, for personally.
It's long been one of his favorites.
That is an absolute treasure.
Yes.
I'm sitting here, the green wave of envy is rising up inside.
Steve, you can come and visit at any time.
I would like to pay homage to it.
It's only a book.
Oh my God, it's so funny. And it's so great, actually. Wow, Mike.
Steve?
Beautiful. Yes.
How long
I have a show and tell.
All right, go for it.
40 years.
Yeah.
Yes, go for it.
Well, I can't top that, but this is one of my recent acquisitions I think you'll appreciate. This is an original still from The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes of
wow.
Terry Kilburn as Billy the Page,
Yeah.
signed by him.
Oh,
Oh,
good.
nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.
No, you got me. You got me. Yeah, you got me, Joe. The green wave is rising again.
Hey, Steve. Steve.
Yes,
Are you sorry you started this?
I am. I regret it mightily. That's terrible. You know, I have a lot of stuff, but that does not keep me from wanting all your stuff.
Well, the one you really want to tap into is Barbara's
Oh my
auction
gosh.
coming up.
I can't even. I can't even. I can't even.
Hi, sweetie.
Well, I have something.
Go for it.
Okay, well, this
All
is
right,
more-
let's do it.
This is more of a tell than a show, okay?
All right.
Many of you know, I work at the Indiana State Library, and we have on microfilm Indiana newspapers dating back to the founding of the state. Well, the other day I was looking for an obituary for a patron from the Evansville Courier in 1906. And I came across this article on the front page, May 3rd, 1906, of the Evansville Courier. And that's what's so interesting. And it says, Conan Doyle asks for a motor army. Novelist proposes to defend England's shores with an automobile brigade. And it's dated London, England, May 2nd. And it says, I'll read it, it's a couple paragraphs. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the eminent novelist, proposes to make motor cars an efficient aid to the military forces in war. He suggests that the motorists of England should organize themselves into brigades for the purpose of coast defense in the event of a hostile raid. Everything, he says, would depend on swift action with the object of checking the cavalry of the enemy from pushing inland, cutting railways and wires, and generally doing all sorts of mischief. The motorists should pledge themselves on the first news of such invasion to instantly fill up their cars with picked riflemen drawn from their own immediate neighborhoods, and to convey them with a week's food, their rifles, and their ammunition to the area that's wanting to the danger point. Food, rifles, and motor cars are already at hand. All that is wanting is for the government to supply each pledged motorist with 2,000 rounds of ammunition to be kept in his garage during peace. In this way would be formed round the enemy a fringe of irregular, self-supplying riflemen who would delay the foe's advances, cut off his patrols, and give the regular troops time to assemble. And what I found so interesting about this, there again, it was in the Evansville Courier on the front page.
Wow.
And you know, it just kind of shows, and it was dated London, England, and it kind of shows the real influence that Conan Doyle had worldwide.
That is really true because, you know, for those of you who are not Indiana natives, Evansville is a town or city on the most southern edge of Indiana. And I'm sure back then it was a very small town. And the fact that they were reprinting this or featuring this on the front page of their newspaper is kind of amazing.
I was kind of blown away. So I got copies of it made, and I was just, wow.
You know, Steve, the rest of us, at that point, Indiana, by coincidence, I don't know if there's a we can make a connection. But Indiana was one of the leading producers of automobiles in the United States.
Yes.
Whether it got down to
Oh, yeah.
Evansville.
Indiana or Indianapolis rivaled Detroit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the Cord, the Auburn, the Duesenberg. Yep.
The Marmon.
Marmon. Yep.
As I was rereading the story, and I thought, well, here it is. He's out of London. He's on the coast. It's 1907, and this article appeared in 1906 that he, he's asking for people to defend the nation. Nothing that I know was going on in Britain in 1906. But yeah, I was like I said, I was just blown away that it would be on the front page.
That is pretty amazing.
A slow news day. Right. There's nothing happening in Evansville again, so why doesn't somebody come up with an article we can put on the front page?
There you go.
Yeah.
That's very. Thank you so for sharing that. That is pretty amazing. Really, it truly is.
Now, and let me say one more thing about the state library. I looked in, and after reading the story again, and the book that Holmes, references, Out of the Woods. I looked to see if we had that book, because we have an awesome collection. And no, we don't have that book, but we have 5 other books by that same author. That J.G. Woods, he was books about, nature and things. So,
Well, Marcia, that is a great segue into my show and tell.
good.
I'm going to do mine now, and if anybody else has anything else after that, they can chime in. But I want to show and tell books from Sherlock Holmes's own library. All right? All right. So we're going to start with this book.
Oh God.
It is Monsieur Lecoq by Emile Gaboriau. Now, Fabienne, I'm sure that my French pronunciation of that may be terrible. So if I'm
Quite
incorrect-
well.
Okay, good. That's a huge relief. So, so you will remember that Holmes in his in A Study in Scarlet mentions Gaboriau. Watson
I'll show
asked
you
him,
my whole.
oh, look at this. Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Wow.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Monsieur Lecoq.
Monsieur Lecoq. Okay, so in A Study in
Almost there. You're almost there. Monsieur
Study in Scarlet, Monsieur Lecoq is mentioned by Sherlock Holmes. Watson asks Holmes, have you read Gaboriau's works? Does Lecoq come up to your idea of a detective? And Holmes replies that Lecoq was a miserable bungler. He had only one thing to recommend him, and that was his energy. That book made me positively ill. Okay, so here's the book. This is the book right here. That's it right there. All right? And then we have a book called The Martyrdom of Man by Winwood Reade. In The Sign of 4, Holmes says to Watson, let me recommend this book, one of the most remarkable ever penned. It is Winwood Reade's Martyrdom of Man. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever read this book.
It's dry.
It is absolutely turgid. and as I wrote in Sherlock Holmes for Dummies, just because someone recommends a book to be read does not mean that he endorses it for its quality. Okay, it is almost unreadable.
It takes true intestinal fortitude to get through.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. That's right.
It's a toughie.
So you may also remember that Holmes mentions in the Norwood Builder that he has. They're on the train. They're heading out to Norwood, and he says that he has his pocket Petrarch, and this is
Doesn't everybody?
right exactly. And so this is a nice little edition of Petrarch that would fit in your coat pocket. And so I am asserting that this is the nice copy of Petrarch that Holmes himself, and it is dated to 1893. So
That's quite a copy, Steve.
cool. Yeah, I know, it's quite nice. I believe it's probably Holmes's own copy.
And
Right.
I'm just saying.
Did you buff it up this morning?
No, that's it. That's it, baby. That's it. Of course, now you know you will remember that in the sign of four. I'm sorry, the final problem. That Watson is consulting Baedekers.
Yes.
Baedekers of London, Baedekers of Great Britain, and they want the train schedules because they are fleeing to the continent because of the threat of Professor Moriarty. Well, I believe that this is probably the exact same Baedekers dated to 1892 that Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson them actually consulted. So
I have a reproduction. It's not an original, but a reproduction of the Bradshaw's Guide to Railway Journeys in Britain. Look how thick that is.
Wow.
There you go. Bradshaw's, I think it was in the story where they go down to Winchester. I forget the name of the story. So the pub that Holmes mentioned or Watson mentions on that case is in the Bradshaw's Guide.
There you go. All right. And now I will move on.
I have one more thing.
Hey, I wanted to say something.
Yes.
Well,
okay.
Who's going to go first?
Mine has nothing to do with Sherlock Holmes, but I'm just going to mention it. Tomorrow night is the Geminides. It starts after 9 p.m. and you can't look straight up. You have to lay back.
Oh, yeah.
But it's supposed to be a heck of a show tomorrow night.
Yep.
Southwest.
Saturn and Jupiter.
All right, that's
Correct.
good. I'm not done with my books.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
No, I'm not done.
I thought you said you were done.
No, I'm not done. All right. So
You're never truly done with your books.
no, okay, quiet down. There's more. And it actually ties into our story. Okay.
But wait, there's more.
There's more. So you remember in the empty house, right? Okay, quiet, everybody.
Steve, if you would hold the book still so we could read it instead of waving it around, that'd be helpful.
So you remember in the empty house when Holmes is the in disguise as the old bookseller, he mentions a book named The Holy War, right? This is it. That's The Holy War right there. Same book. And he also recommends a book to Watson to fill that space on the shelf entitled British Birds. Can I get it? There we go. There we go. British Birds. So these are the very
We've got
books.
a few with us tonight.
These are the very books. Now we get to a couple of really good ones. So you remember in his last bout. Now pay attention now, because this is heavy duty. Okay.
Unless this is on a test, I don't care.
So you remember in his last bow that Von Bork opens a parcel and is amazed to find a small book entitled Practical Handbook of Bee Culture. Well, here we are, my friends. There it is. This is it. This is it right here. Bee Culture, Holmes. This is the actual book. Wait a minute here. There we go. There we go. Title page. Practical Handbook of Bee Culture. That's the book. I'm sure you're all agog. And now finally,
I totally am.
finally,
And I have Watson's bin sitting outside my driveway.
now finally, oh, you have little faith. Finally, which ties into this meeting tonight, comes the book. You know, you remember that Out of Doors, which Holmes cites as the key to the entire story. Here's the book which first brought light into what might have been forever dark. It's Out of Doors by the famous observer J.G. Wood. Well, there it is.
There it is.
Green copy, very good.
Out of Wood.
Yeah.
Out of Doors by J.G. Wood.
But yours isn't brown and silver or whatever he said. Yours is green.
There it is. Well, green.
Isn't there also a red version?
Chocolate and silver.
So I have a question, Steve. Is the quote true? Did he quote it accurately?
He did. Yes,
Okay,
he
good.
did.
Good.
Indeed, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. So I'm pleased to share with you, my friends, the fact that I have half of Sherlock Holmes's own bookshelf in my office back here.
I have a couple of things. Can I
All
do
right,
mine?
go for it.
Okay, well, one of them is a dark lantern. Which is
Nice one.
Yeah, if you've never seen a dark lantern, this
You
is how they
bet.
operate. This it opens up. There's a kerosene thing inside with a wick, and then it's got this big glass thing on the front that magnifies the light inside, and then you can open and close it. Let me open this back up so you can actually see what I'm doing. So you can open and close it by moving this. The wick stays lit, but you can close the light off or open the light up by moving this lever on the back. So that it's kind of like a flashlight, but it it stays lit, but it shuts off, turns on and off. So that's what Holmes and Lestrade and all those guys use. And my other item of interest is a Persian slipper, which Holmes kept his tobacco in the toe end of. And this Persian slipper is special because if you've seen Steve's interview on his podcast with Denny Dobry, this is the mate to Denny Dobry's Persian slipper. He sold it to me in Dayton many, many years ago when he was first starting to make his Sherlock Holmes 221B sitting room. So I have the mate to Denny Dobry's Persian slipper.
That is totally cool.
So that's my show and tell.
That is great.
Thanks.
That's so interesting. I'm interested in the Dark Lantern too. I mean, I've never seen one in person.
The Dark Lantern is referenced in Gilbert and Sullivan's musical operetta, Pirates of Penzance. And they say, your dark lantern sees, grab your dark lantern because we're going to go out and defend the castle, or find the bad guys.
Attack the castle, actually.
Attack the castle, that's it. Anyway, the line is, your dark lantern sees, and decades ago when I first became familiar with that musical, I didn't know what a dark lantern was. So that line didn't make sense to me. And then later, when I learned about it, it was cool. So now Regina's showing us what Gilbert and Sullivan wrote about as well.
Actually, they were very useful for the railroads, for signaling.
Right. And mine actually has the words boat signal lantern stamped across the front, right up here at the top. So, but it's very, very similar to the one that Regina just had. So it's actually from Brad Kefauver of all people. But, yeah.
We actually have one of those like yours, Vincent, and for years we just called it a railroad lantern because we didn't know that it had any other term.
Right. Yeah, mine's actually stamped that way, right in the front.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. That is great. Really. Does anybody else have anything they want to share during show and tell?
I'll make a quick announcement. For all your chronological needs, of which there are many, let me tell you, around the Sherlockian world, my blog and collection of historical Sherlock chronologies is now at 29. I have located 29 individual chronologies from the last 75 years. I know where there's a 30th one, but the guy will not give it to me. So I have 29 if anybody has any chronological needs out there that they need filled for a paper or a project of some kind. Just give me a holler.
And I may know a cat burglar to get you number 30.
Oh, I've even made a deal with a guy to trade him one of my very valuable books for his chronology, but he still won't give it up. So
Vince, I have this to say.
Please.
I want your chronology.
Believe it or not,
it's time for you to do your chronology. So
in the works. I have laid down some pages for that, so I'm working on it.
All right.
Mine will be vastly different than everybody else's because there's something in the canon that I believe is a huge mistake.
No.
Watson doesn't make mistakes.
Vince, we all agree about the Mazarin stone. That's no secret.
Oh, the Mazarin stone sucks. Mazarin stone sucks. Shouldn't even be in the canon. But anyway, it's on its way.
Excellent. All right. Does anybody else have anything they want to share for show and tell?
Well, I've been thinking for a few days of what I could show you and tell you about, because I'm not really a collector, but I made a selection of French pastiche that you may know or may not know. So I show you some. It started very early. The first one was written in 1908. You may know about it. It's Arsène Lupin.
Oh yeah.
Arsène Lupin.
Contre Sherlock Holmes. It was written by Maurice Leblanc, who wrote Arsène Lupin. And well, it was written in 1908. So Sherlock Holmes was still, original stories of Sherlock Holmes was still published. And for the record, Conan Doyle didn't like this very much, but well, it's very funny, and the Watson he made is really funny. I mean, he's dumber than Nigel Bruce, which was hard to to do, but he is. Then another one from 1926. It's called The Adventures of Loufoque Holmes. Loufoque in French means weirdo. So it's a play by Camille, and it's very funny. Okay, so that was another prestige.
What is it?
I choose this one that's called Wiggins, and it's written by Beatrice Nicodème, and it's a series of child novel or teenage novel about Wiggins. And then the last one I choose is from 2008, so exactly a century after Sherlock Holmes, and it's called Duel en Enfer, translated Duel in Hell, and written by Bob Garcia. And it's Sherlock Holmes against Jack the Ripper novel. So there is a tradition of pastiches here in France and June. I wanted to show you. And as you were showing a Persian slipper, here is another one that I made myself. because my second hobby is to create jewels, homemade jewels, and I did some Sherlockian jewels and charms. So here is this tiny little Persian slippers.
Like you, Regina.
Yes.
And I show you some. This is a dancing man earring. This is another charms. It's a magnifying glass.
Right.
Sorry for my accent, really.
No, it's good.
And a pendant, a Sherlock Holmes pendant. I'm wearing it for the meetings. And that's all. That's all for me. Thank you.
That's wonderful. That's great. Thank you so much. It's so good.
I'm sorry.
Now I have
right now.
There's a problem when you have a Zoom call and you're sitting in your own home and they do show and tell. Like I could just jump up and run and get something. So since she was bringing up her French collection, since I did live in France for a year when I was in college, I managed to go around to the bookshops and get the complete works of Sherlock Holmes en français, which I still have, obviously, and read at the time because my French was pretty good back then. And I also happened to pick up at that time a pastiche called Arsène Lupin, Sherlock Holmes. So there you go. But I have that in French.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great one. Really funny.
Yeah.
Is that the one that they released and then they had to go back and change the name because of the lawsuit?
I believe so.
Yes.
Story? So
Yeah,
I've actually I don't think I've ever actually seen a copy of that before.
Well, I have it because it was probably still fresh at the time. I mean, this is like 50 years ago, so it was like
I
okay.
suspect
then.
Elena has a copy, at least an English copy.
Yeah.
Well, that is so cool. Yeah, the Arsène Lupin, it just fascinates me, the idea of those stories, but I haven't read any. So thank you. Both.
Fun.
Oh, this has been so great. Anybody else have anything they want to share before we go?
Yeah, I'd like to share and inform people that Channel 20 lately on Saturday nights at 10 o'clock are running Mr. Bean as Inspector McGray.
McGray.
He does a great job in that role. He's perfect for it.
Those are great. I love those. Yeah.
Yeah, those are really good. I've seen them too.
I don't watch a lot of TV anymore, but I caught that and I was stunned by how good it was.
What is the title?
McGray, I think, is the name of the actual series.
Yeah.
McGray.
Yeah.
MAIGRET. McGray.
He's
McGray.
excellent.
Yeah. And surprisingly, Rowan Atkinson is nothing like his Mr. Bean character in his McGray role. He's totally believable as McGray.
Yeah, there's no hint of Bean at all. It's
No, not at all.
wonderful.
All right, everybody. If there's no more show and tell, is there? Anybody have anything? Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break to go to the bathroom or whatever, get a drink or whatever you want to do. We'll be back in 5 minutes and we'll do the quiz. All right, we'll see you back in 5 minutes.
Okay, that's not what I needed.
Dave and Jamie Sue Farrell. I think they're from church. Jamie Sue Farrell. I think I've seen her name on LinkedIn. Oh, got it. Well, anyway.
Dang.
What was that?
And now we have liftoff.
I think that was a 1950s microwave there.
Holy moly, that was amazing.
Whoever did that is now sterile.
One second.
It sounded like a nuclear reactor.
It sounded like a nuclear reactor.
I thought it was just Steve on one of his guitars.
Yeah, well. You know, speaking
I
of
have to
that,
say that again when he's here.
the last couple of days, Mark, the weather has been phenomenal, right? I mean, nice 50-degree weather. My intention was to have a cigar this weekend. I waited and woke up this morning and the skies had opened. It was dark. It was dingy. It was stormy. That really sucks. Maybe I can have one tomorrow, but
I hope so.
We had a little bit of sun this afternoon, or late morning or early afternoon.
we didn't have anything here, and unless I just missed it. Of course, you know I did fall asleep at one point. So.
Okay.
No, you didn't miss
That's
it. It was just
self-inflicted.
dark.
Yeah, well, yeah. But
Vince, the sunny time only lasted 7 minutes.
Yeah,
there
I said a little. I said a little.
There was no sun today.
you can't have a cigar in 7 minutes. I
Nope.
did see one. I got this catalog the other day that had this cigar, and the very last page of it, it was a 5-hour cigar.
Holy no.
This thing was 9 inches long and a 94 gauge, something like that. I mean, it's a pipe bomb, for crying out loud. I don't mind having a 45-minute or an hour cigar, but I don't want to dedicate 5 hours to a cigar. But I mean, this thing was massive.
Well, you
That
can just
sounds like a
light it up
collection of
later.
dynamite.
Yeah, I guess you could, but you know, anytime I've stopped smoking a cigar and come back to it, the initial taste is pretty rough. But yeah. Anyway, 5 hours for a cigar. I don't mind smoking 5 hours worth of cigars, but I'm not going to spend 5 hours on one cigar.
At that point, you'd be tired.
All right, whoever's dog is barking, you need to mute that microphone.
Somebody's got dogs.
Look at Fabian. She's like stretched.
Yeah.
We need to cut her some slack. It's like 3 in the morning there.
No kidding.
It's 2:10 a.m.
Maybe I fall asleep, but you will lull me.
You are an honorary member now. Just
Yeah.
because-
Right, yes.
We'll send you a check.
I just turned down the mic so you can't hear me snore. But
I mean, that is dedication. Wow. I
That's
am.
masochism. What are you talking about?
All right, everybody. Let's resume. Is everybody back?
Yeah, we can't tell on some of them.
Well,
Hi.
so
About to start.
I did email everybody this afternoon the quiz. Did you get it?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So let's.
It's too late to look up all the answers.
I didn't.
Yeah. No phones. No phones.
Now we do have quiz prizes that are pretty fantastic, if I do say so. I'm going to show you what they are right now, just to motivate you. Okay, the first one is this. It is a vintage.
Oh, I love that game.
Yes.
That is the best game ever.
It is the Scotland Yard board game, vintage, like 1984. It is, and I would have you know, unopened.
Well, mine is open, but that is a fun game to play. I have played it many times, and I love that
This
game.
is classic. So this is, and I will mail whoever gets this, even if it's France, I will mail this to you if you are the winner. All right?
You know, it really sucks that the 80s is considered vintage now.
I know, right? Wasn't that like last week? Okay. Second is a book, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, wow.
It's a collection of early parodies and pastiches of Sherlock Holmes. That's second place. And third place is this lame-o Sherlock Holmes puzzle book. But, but
wow,
I'm just being real. It's third place, so you want to work a little harder.
More like
Okay?
last place. Gee whiz, man.
There you go. Okay.
Here's your prize. It sucks.
It doesn't suck. It's just not as good as the rest of them.
Right,
Okay.
It's not vintage.
It's not totally not vintage. All right. So let's do the quiz. All right. I think there's a total of 17 points here. I'm not a quiz maker or a quiz taker, and I did the quiz, so I am putting out a qualifier here that I pretty much suck at this. So You're getting what you get. All right. So here we go.
First step to fixing yours is all get.
I sent it out this afternoon, but I will read the questions and you can answer them now if you didn't see the quiz earlier. All right. This is a quiz on our story, The Lion's Mane. All right, here we go. Question 1. Holmes must now be what to himself? Hint. He'd only been this one other time in the canon.
Narrator.
Chronicler.
Chronicler.
Chronicler. Narrator.
Chronicler. Narrator is not right. It's chronicler.
I got it. I have one.
Hey, I got that one.
Maybe
All right.
it's the only one I get, but I got one.
It's not narrator, it's chronicler. He was quite explicit about that. All right. Number 2. Apart from the little cove, what else breaks the line formed by the beach that stretches for some miles in each direction?
Lagoon.
The chalk cliffs.
Shingle.
Town.
Village of Fulworth.
Yes, the village of Fulworth. That's it. That's the
Okay.
answer. The village of Fulworth. Well done, whoever yelled that out. I think that was Kara. Very good. I'm not
That
surprised.
was my other half.
All right, question 3. What was the old trick that Holmes was up to?
Deduction.
Yes, but what was the deduction he made?
The guy was going swimming and his name starts with an S, and why is it escaping me? I don't know.
That's right. He was going for a swim. He deduced that McPherson was going for a swim. That's it.
No, wasn't it the guy?
Or
No,
not
the-
McPherson, the other guy.
The head man.
Yeah. That guy.
Stackhouse.
Stackhouse. Sorry, that's it. Yep, that's it.
That hurts.
And he deduced that, yes, that's it. He deduced that he was going for a swim. All right, question 4. Stackhouse was a well-known what in his day?
A rowing
Rower.
blue.
Athlete, rower.
Yes,
Rowing blue.
indeed. That's right. Correct. And what is the name of the coaching establishment?
The Gables.
Gables.
The
Gables.
Gables.
Yes, the Gables. Well done.
Why you let her play this?
This next one is worth up to 3 points. What were the only articles of clothing mentioned by Holmes that he observed McPherson wearing?
His blueberry coat, his trousers,
Burberry
and a
coat.
shoe.
Trousers.
And one shoe.
Canvas sneakers, shoes.
Yes, that's right. The Burberry overcoat, trousers, and a pair of canvas shoes. Well done, everybody.
I would like to
Wonder
make
Burberry
a
was
point
a
for the
paper.
scoring record. It was not a blueberry, it was a Burberry.
Burberry.
I hope that Burberry
When I
was
say
more
blueberry, I'm
affordable back
sorry.
then.
Really? I'm gonna have
If
to.
I said blueberry, that's probably because I've had bourbon. All right. Let's move on.
No, you've had Bluebin.
Right. All right.
I think the Burberry coat I have says blueberry on the tag. I need to look into it.
There you go, right? Okay.
You might have
Okay.
a fake.
All right.
That's how you
Next
know you have a
question, number
knockoff.
7. All right. What injury did McPherson suffer that was not directly caused by his attacker?
Bitten through
His lip.
What was that?
Bit through his lip. He bit.
Correct. Yes, that's it.
Yes.
That's right.
For the pain.
Well done. All right.
Not keeping
Question
track.
8. The high abstract region in which Murdoch lived included what? Extra point if you can explain what the first thing is.
Conics and surds.
sections.
Say it
Conics
again.
and surds.
Thirds and
Conics.
Surds, yes.
And conic sections.
Yes. That's right.
and
That's
I know
good.
what they are the irrational root.
Irrational number.
So basically, any number that if you can't do a square root, cubed root, or whatever type of root, it becomes a surd. When you try to
You get a point. You get an extra point. All right. Well done, Kara. Excellent. Very good. All right. Question 9. What led Holmes to believe that McPherson fell as he was ascending?
A handprint.
And knee print.
In the mud.
Both knee and hand prints.
Yes.
Towards the incline.
There was a clay or soft marl mixed with the chalk, and every here and there I saw the same footstep, both ascending and descending. No one else had gone to the beach by this track that morning. At one place, I observed the print of an open hand with the fingers toward the incline. This could only mean that poor McPherson had fallen as he ascended. So it was the handprint that told him. All right. Question 10. Who is the representative of that slow, solid Sussex breed?
Anderson.
Anderson.
Constable.
Anderson, yes. Constable Anderson.
I think it was Ian Murdoch.
No.
No.
Was it Anderson? Do I have it wrong? It's
Anderson.
all right, I'll give you Anderson. All right.
Murdoch was a teacher it was a coach.
Yeah, Murdoch was the suspect.
That's right. How did I get
What?
that? All right. Okay, good. We'll give you Anderson. All right. What does old Tom Bellamy own all of? 2 points.
The boats and the
Nuts.
dock.
Beach cots.
He owns all the boats and the bathing cots.
Okay, so
forward.
that's the one.
All right. Question 12. Name the book and its author that provided Holmes with the name of the murderer. 2 points. One for the name of
See,
the
show, and tell earlier.
Wood.
Yeah.
One
Out
for
of
the name of the book. One for the name of the author.
Out of doors.
Out of
Wood.
doors.
By Woods.
Wood.
Right, exactly. Out of Doors by J.G. Wood.
I think they have a copy of that book at the Lilly Library.
I don't know. They might. Who knows?
I mean, I think I saw it at the, the thing we had down there.
I would not be surprised. They probably have everything.
Wasn't he?
All right.
Was he a
Okay.
reverend? I think he was a
So
reverend.
who has 17 points?
Probably me. I add this right. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9.
Did you miss any is the question.
I don't even have double digits, so I'm not in this.
I don't either. I don't even have double digits.
Okay. Kara, what do you have? I know you probably have the high score.
17 or 18, depending on if the 3 points listed on your quiz includes that extra point on question 8.
All right, you win.
Yeah.
Okay, 18 points. Does anybody have 17? 16, 15, 14, 13, 12.
12.
All right, Mike Schaefer, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8.
8.
All right, Louise. Okay, there's our winners. That's
Am I going to win that book that I gave to be given away?
What's that?
The puzzle book.
Yes.
Yeah.
I donated that at Hillcrest.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, you
I
get
already
it
have
back.
my own. I already have my own copy, so I don't want it back.
All right. How many? Well, what did you have? What was your point score?
8. So we could go on to somebody
Okay,
else.
7, 6, 5.
I had 6.
Okay, Nancy.
I never thought 6 would be winning anything.
All right. So first place. I'm making a note here so I can, is Kara. And second place is Mike Schaefer.
No. No.
And, well, third place prize
Nancy.
Nancy.
is Nancy. All right, very good. Okay, good job.
When you only correctly answer 1/3 of the questions, you really don't see yourself in the running. So I was not expecting that.
Well, it is third prize, so.
Yeah,
On the upside, it wasn't one of Meredith's quizzes.
All right. So that brings us to our next thing, and that is our own Don Curtis is going to deliver a paper on the lion's mane and then lead a brief story discussion of the story. So I'm going to turn this over to Don Curtis.
Okay, thank you. If you know how to use the different views up in the upper right-hand corner, you can select gallery view or speaker view. So if you want to see me with the big head, I can be the speaker. If you want to see me small like everybody else, then you don't have to change anything. This paper, entitled The Lion's Mane, a Topical Review, I wrote for the Baker Street Journal back in '06. It was the last paper I published in the journal before I laid my pen down. The story takes place 4 years after Holmes' retirement. He retired to keep bees, as we know, on the Sussex Downs. The internal dating of the story is in late July of 1907, and Holmes narrates the account of the case himself. It first appeared in print in Liberty magazine in 1926, November, and was subsequently collected with the last 12 Holmes cases and published as the case book of Sherlock Holmes in 1927. This adventure is sometimes compared with The Speckled Band, as it too is solved by identifying the creature that caused the death of the victim. However, in The Lion's Mane, the creature is in a purely natural state rather than under the controlling machinations and manipulations of a diabolical human villain. Our killer this time is found to be Cyanea capillata, one of the largest of the many varieties of medusae, or so-called jellyfish, and of all the subspecies, the one with the most venomous stingers. In 1951, Dr. W.T. Williams cast doubt on the resolution of this case by writing that Cyanea capillata, it appears, is neither large nor deadly enough to do the damage attributed to it. He suggests that another species, Cyanea arctica, corresponds more closely to J.G. Wood's description of the murderous sea nettle. Another investigator seems to agree. Joel Hedgepeth published Re-Examination of the Adventure of the Lion's Mane in Scientific Monthly, 1945, and it was reprinted in the Baker Street Journal in 1948. Hedgepeth alludes to careless confusion between the species encountered by Sherlock Holmes and the giant Cyanea of the Arctic, and suggests that Cyanea capillata are usually 1 or 2 feet across their disc. Neither of these two gentlemen reference Alfred Mayer's 1910 work, Medusae of the World, wherein the names of the two Medusae are united for the scientific community as Cyanea capillata, with Cyanea arctica regarded simply as a variant. Marine scientist A. Agassiz wrote of an encounter with Cyanea capillata, 1865. This species attains an enormous size. I measured myself a victim at Nahant, near Boston, a dish of which had attained a diameter of 7.5 feet, and the tentacles extending to a length of more than 120 feet. That's big enough to get the job done, isn't it? Another article in, what's this? Another article in Northwest Dive News magazine in 2003 reports a specimen found in Puget Sound on Whidbey Island that measured 5 feet across the bell. Whidbey Island, as you may know, is up near Seattle in the Puget Sound area. These sightings of extremely large medusae would seem to vindicate J.G. Wood's report of his own injuries suffered by the stings of Cyanea capillata off the coast of Kent. The sandy-colored giant jellyfish that stung him so severely was reported to be 40 to 50 feet away when the limbs became entangled with the tentacles. It's evident from reports all around the northern waters of the world that the largest specimens of Cyanea capillata are to be found in Arctic waters. But as jellyfish are not swimmers, currents and storms can cause them to show up in unexpected locales. Thus, Inspector Bartle of the Sussex Constabulary was absolutely correct when he said, "I never saw such a thing. You don't belong to Sussex." Fitzroy McPherson suffered an agonizing death after being brutally scourged with a most vicious lashing weapon. Or so Holmes initially thought. But what of the dying man's last words, the lion's mane? And who could have perpetrated this heinous whipping? No one was about. The phrase uttered by McPherson nagged at Sherlock Holmes. It had suggested something vaguely familiar, but what was it? Finally, as he ascended the path up from the beach after spending some pensive moments contemplating the dead man's dead dog, it came in a flash. Holmes hurried to his little villa and rummaged in the garret for an hour until he located the little chocolate and silver volume which held the answer to this baffling mystery. The bibliographic details of this little book are worthy of further investigation. It's a collection of articles and stories which the author, Reverend J.G. Wood, had previously published in several magazines. The story that identifies and describes the lion's mane, Cyanea capillata, is entitled Medusa and Her Locks. It was originally published in Once a Week, an illustrated tabloid that published serials and complete stories from 1859 to 1879. The article was collected with others and reprinted in Holmes' chocolate and silver volume entitled Out of Doors, and was first published by Longmans and Green of London in 1874. Another edition was published in 1881, and a so-called new edition was published in 1882. The new edition was reprinted in 1890, 1891, 1895, and 1898. This writer has observed only 2 bindings, and both were of the 1895 printing. My own 1895 copy is bound in green cloth with gold decoration and gilding of the text block. The other is described as burgundy cloth with silver decoration. I suggest that this binding, after a bit of sun fading, handling, and storage in an attic for several years, could be described by Sherlock Holmes as chocolate and silver. By the way, I no longer own this book. I think I sold it to Roy Pilot some years ago. After our thorough consideration of the bibliography of Out of Doors, it would be prudent to examine the reliability of the source, that is, the author, J.G. Wood. on whom Holmes placed such confidence and authority. At first blush, we might be tempted to suspicion, for John George Wood was educated at Oxford for the clergy and was ordained a priest in 1854. Religious practitioners have not traditionally been regarded as oracles of scientific knowledge. A further examination of Wood's career is quite reassuring. From early childhood, Wood loved and studied all natural history pursuits. Even before accepting his first parish, he worked in the Oxford Anatomical Museum under Sir Henry Akeland, the famed physician and physiologist who introduced natural history studies to the university. In the same year he received his MA, Wood published his first book, The Illustrated Natural History. Early in his clerical career, Wood occasionally delivered illustrated lectures on natural history subjects, and by 1879 he resolved to take up lecturing as a second profession. During his life, Wood published nearly 60 books on natural history. One, his Common Objects of the Country, sold 100,000 copies in a single week. Incidentally, for a time, J.G. Wood was an editor of Boy's Own magazine, which was owned by Ward Lock and Company, who eventually published A Study in Scarlet by Arthur Conan Doyle. Wood's writing was in no sense scientific and did not comply with the accepted standards of scientific research. His goal was rather to popularize natural history and make it intelligible and interesting to common people. He succeeded wonderfully, and in the process inspired many future generations of naturalists. We may therefore accept Wood's accurate portrayal of Cyanea capillata from both his scientific knowledge as well as from his painful personal experiences. In The Lion's Mane, we are offered by Holmes' own hand the only somewhat detailed account of his retirement to the Sussex Downs. In this beginning passage of the tale, Holmes says, "I had given myself up entirely to that soothing life of nature for which I had so often yearned during the long years spent amid the gloom of London." This is said, of course, despite Watson's several declarations that Holmes was happiest in the bustling clamor and criminal activities of the city. If we believe the doctor, Holmes eschewed the quiet serenity of the country, yet here the retiree himself states plainly of his enjoyment of the life of a hermit among my bees and my books in a small farm upon the Sussex Downs. Where exactly is Holmes living these days? Many writers claim to have located Holmes' bee farm on the Channel coast west of Eastbourne. Even Christopher Morley claims to have found it in 1953 near the town of Burling Gap, but his claim is unconvincing as the locale has no clear view of the sea, but is a mile and a half inland. I would opt rather for a spot atop the chalk cliffs east of Beachy Head, where the paths down to the beach are more negotiable, the view of the channel is correctly southeast, and appropriate shelter for the beehives is available. The principal objection to such a spot would be Dr. Watson's comment in the preface to his last bow that Holmes lived in a small farm upon the Downs 5 miles from Eastbourne. Holmes' farm is undoubtedly much nearer the town. Recalling Watson's propensity for inaccurate factual data, his estimate of this distance cannot be trusted. After all, one can examine a detailed map of Sussex with Sherlock's lens and never find the village of Fulworth. If we cannot rely upon Watson or upon Holmes to recall certain facts accurately, how much less so should we depend on Watson's memory? The authorship of the Lion's Mane is claimed by Sherlock Holmes. It is also, as it also is in The Blanched Soldier. He tells us that during his retirement, the good Watson had passed almost beyond my ken. He only saw Watson on occasional weekend visits. Thus, we must conclude that writing up this case himself was necessary, as he no longer had constant access to his Boswell. Or it may have been simply an activity to fill his now abundant leisure hours. After criticizing Watson so often of being melodramatic and sensational, possibly Holmes thought he could do better. Sherlockian critics disagree. W. W. Robeson, in his introduction to the case book of Sherlock Holmes, observes how much is lost by the absence of Watson. Tension, mystery, the enhancement of interest by the contrast of excitement with pedestrian sobriety. Robeson is, however, complimentary about Holmes. Solid and believable descriptions of Ian Murdoch and Maud Bellamy, and concludes that we have no reason to question the story's authenticity. Martin Dakin is less understanding. In a Sherlock Holmes commentary, 1972, he flatly denies that Holmes could have penned the two tales, Lion's Mane and Blanched Soldier. Based on his assessment of Holmes' storytelling skills as used in narrating Gloria Scott and Musgrave Ritual and shorter narratives given to Watson in Final Problem and Empty House, Holmes would have produced a more workmanlike product if he indeed were the author. Dakin concludes that in Blanched Soldier and Lion's Mane, Holmes must have furnished the facts to a ghostwriter. We might prefer to take Holmes at his word and simply conclude that at his best, Holmes was able to emulate Watson's familiar style, but at worst he fell far short of the mark. Even though the reading public has never lauded The Lion's Mane as a top-tier account of a Holmes investigation, the Holmes told tale does have at least one exuberant fan. The literary agent, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, presumably acting for Holmes as he did for Watson, considered The Lion's Mane among the 6 best stories. So there. Though The Adventure of the Lion's Mane is not generally highly regarded as among the best told tales in the canon, close scrutiny proves it does have its points of interest. Rather than deducing data from discovering clues, Holmes' slow and somewhat vague memory provides the dramatic solution from his eclectic and omnivorous reading experience. Certainly, we miss the camaraderie between Holmes and Watson, and we've grown used to Watson's more fully descriptive and entertaining writing style. But we must make allowances for Holmes. After all, he does have a more cold, calculating, and scientific mind. Finally, we have a most unusual and fascinating villain, a natural creature most of us would never encounter or wish to encounter. For a few pages, we were tempted to suspect Ian Murdoch, but Cyania Capellata is far more thrilling than a jealous suitor. Thank you.
Yay!
Hey, thank you, Don. That was great. That was great.
Good job, Don. Thank you.
One personal note. Many years ago, many of you who have been longtime members of the clients will remember my first wife, Sharon. We traveled once to, or several times to England. On one occasion, Ed and Karen Lauterbach were living in Brighton while Ed did his last sabbatical for Purdue. When we arrived in Brighton, they had rented a car so that we could go exploring the Sussex Downs in search of Sherlock Holmes' bee farm. We had a most delightful day, and we went to Beachy Head, which is, I swear, the windiest place on the planet. You can barely stand up. The wind is so ferocious. And the view of the sea is every bit as described, and there's plenty of shelter for Holmes Bee Farm. We concluded that we had found Holmes Bee Farm. And Ed was kind enough, being our poet laureate of the BSI, to pen his thoughts in verse in a little card. Naturally, I lost the damn thing. And I've always regretted it. But that was a fun experience searching for Sherlock. And I will not forget. Excuse me, any comments or questions?
I wish you had that to read to us. That would be great.
That would be nice.
Oh, I do too.
Well, we have had a long meeting. Let's have a very brief discussion. Does anybody, Don, go ahead and take it away.
Well, I'll jump in if nobody else is.
Jump right in.
Okay. I did have a couple of issues, and sorry, I'm going to disagree with you on one point there. That Cyanea capillata is actually considered common in the English Channel. And so the idea that a fishing village, somebody who had been born and bred in a fishing village on the English Channel where the jelly is common, and he had never seen one of those, and nobody in the town apparently knew what it was, or anything, that strains it a little bit more than I'm willing to accept. But anyway, be that as it may. And the fact that Holmes didn't notice that Macpherson was wet is he had a dry towel on the beach. He'd come up out of the water because he had been stung in the water, and he doesn't notice that he's wet. And that's, there were 2 or 3 items like that. I'm okay. We all like to nitpick about this, but those things that stuck out to me.
Good.
Well, I would disagree on a small part, Larry, and that is, well, at least one person knew what it was. The person it killed, he had its name. So
true.
So it couldn't have been totally unknown there, but not very widely, apparently.
Yeah, but again,
He was
Inspector Bartle had grown up there and lived there all his life, and presumably, there are fishing boats out there. This is a fishing village. Everybody would have known what this thing was. Yeah.
Okay.
And to
I would
say,
argue that it would be in a different environment, maybe, and maybe in a different form, and that's why it didn't kind of click at first. That would be my only argument, was that maybe it's just not where they've seen it before, and so it doesn't really, it just doesn't click.
Again, British Sea Fishing Co.uk says, that's the most common place for them there. So that's, anyway.
Now, was the dying man referring to the creature by its accepted moniker, or was he describing what he saw?
Could have been either one. You can read it either way.
The lion's
But I wouldn't think a lion's mane is what you thought of first after encountering this thing.
I agree. That's kind of a strain, but it's kind of a reach.
I wonder from a medical standpoint, and I've seen people stung by jellyfishes, and that they thought it was a cat of nine tails or whatever. I mean, I question not recognizing from a medical standpoint. I mean, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is a doctor, but I thought that was kind of weird.
One of the things in the story, and I'm going to depart from the jellyfish, one of the things in the story that bothered me, and there were several, you've got this guy, Murdoch, who's the mathematician, and he's kind of described as sullen and friendless and ill-tempered and everything. And we immediately learn what a creep the guy is, because the first thing that's described about him is how he picks up somebody else's dog and throws it through a plate glass window. And yet, when the story ends a few pages later, he not only is being all magnanimous about, you know, delivering messages between the guy that replaced him in this girl's affections and the girl, but also herself is going, oh, I can't tell you how I got that note or how it came to me. She will share that information because she is protecting him. All of a sudden, he changes personas to me, because I don't care if you do deliver notes for people, you're still the jerk that threw a dog through a window. And I just felt like they didn't keep a continuity in the type of person he was. We're told at his first introduction that he has no friends. Then we find out he has at least 2 close friends because he's willing to keep their secrets. So that was one of the things that threw me.
And they kind of hinted that, or even actually said it, that he mellowed over time, and that.
No, 3 pages worth of time.
Yeah, well, it's not a long story.
Well, I think that we can take I mean, sort of stepping away from the game and talking about Doyle and how this was possibly a story he thought he'd done a good job with and all. He was really playing to his readership here and coming up with a mystery where he already knew about the jellyfish. So he's going to create a story that's got this obvious villain as described early and so forth, and then springs the, oh my gosh, it's actually this sea creature later on. And that's why he thinks he's done a good job of coming up with a mystery that his readership will enjoy. I mean, I sort of see this as Doyle's, he made all this up and he put the words in the order he did to be a good story, not because it has much realism if you start to break it down.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
And it does break down. But.
Yeah.
Did the dog die because the dog went swimming, or did the dog walk down on the beach where its master had been, and the jellyfish somehow became a land creature and came after it?
It would have had to have been in the water.
Yeah, but I mean, that's because that in itself should have told them something too. Like, here's a wet dog.
Yeah.
Did the dog drown?
Right.
What happened? How did it die?
I also found it interesting. I decided it was just because it's 100 years ago, but someone came out of the water, stung and in pain and agony, and managed to put on their coat over their shoulders. Why? Why bother with the coat?
Over the excruciatingly painful wounds on his shoulders.
Right.
Which, yeah.
Yeah, is that just a sense of decency that I can't leave the beach unclothed, or with just swim trunks on or something?
These
are the birds.
Beach modesty in that age was pretty close.
Right. That's the difference in our eras, I guess.
Well, did anybody notice, or when you came to the term bathing cots, what a bathing cot is?
Oh yeah, it's a.
I know.
It's a whole. I know.
So I mean, some of these folks clearly did have some modesty issues.
Definitely.
I clothed and live naked.
Maybe he didn't want his coat to be stolen. I mean, after all, it was a blueberry. So
it was a blueberry.
And of course, we can totally object to this story because they killed the lion's mane at the end. even though it was just in its natural habitat and everything. But you know,
Doing
that's
what it does.
cruelty to the lion's mane.
But it was taking out a significant portion of the local population. 'Cause
That was their fault. That was their fault.
Well, I would just like to say, again, we have an example of what happens when we don't have Watson.
Ah. Okay.
Does anybody want a chronological view on the story?
Jump
Sure.
in.
Go ahead,
You're all
Vince.
thinking, I know what you're all thinking. Oh, please, let's talk chronology, right?
Yeah, right.
When did we say that?
Yeah, I know. Well, nobody ever does. That's the fun part for me. So, all
When did we
right.
say when?
For the lion's mane, you pull my spreadsheet up here on this, because this one, most everybody agrees that the story took place in summer of 1907. It jumps around. Only one person says it was June, and that's J.F. Christ. Everybody else says July 21st, 23rd, 25th, 29th, or July 30th, 1907, with a very small contingency including E.B. Zeisler, Baring Gould, Henry Folsom, saying that it was 1909. But for the most part, almost everybody agrees it was 1907, July 1907. So, even though there was not technically a gale in 1907, people have gone to great lengths to try and explain away. There was one in 1909, but not 1907, as is described in the story. So
you're fine.
people go to all kinds of lengths to try and figure out
Oh.
how strong a gale has to be for it to be called a gale, and blah 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 blah. But
Jason, you're
it's very
fine.
technical. But most everybody agrees it's July 1907.
Well, enough of a gale to blow this large creature into the pool.
Exactly. Well, you know, and again, the term gale is used, and it has a very, you know, it's just like anything else. It's just like pond versus lake. Everything has an outer edge. It has to be measured somehow. So, you know, it's a lot of people's varying opinions on what a gale is, or whether it's just a wind, things of that nature. So, but again, 1907 seems to be where everybody lands.
Thanks, Vince. That's really pretty cool.
Well, no, it's not, but you know, it's what I do.
No, it is. I know.
I accept it. It's okay. You know.
Okay. No, Vince, we're glad you do it because it gives us some place to go on those occasions that we do want to know.
Oh.
So therefore, you've done the homework. We just get the answers.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Well, Don, I liked your presentation, and you revealed something that even Klinger or Baring Gould did not make the connection of. And how you found this, I don't know, but apparently, as you said, Study in Scarlet, which was Doyle's first big payday, or first big paid publication in the Sherlock series, was the same publisher who did the J&G Wood book. So what does he do? He goes and mentions the J&G Out of Doors book in this story. I think that was very
On point.
Reminiscent.
Well, very, very, it shows Doyle's appreciation, long-standing appreciation for the assistance he got to get started.
Early product placement.
Considering,
Yeah, free advertising.
considering that Doyle sold the copyright for A Study in Scarlet for 25 pounds and
Never
never
made it
saw
done.
another penny the rest of his life, I don't think he was probably feeling all that generous about Ward Locke's treatment of him in the early years. He mentioned it because it was a coincidence.
Well, okay. Well, I'm sure Doyle went on and made a few pounds after that on his other stuff.
Now, Ward and Locke and Company was a big publisher, right? I mean, it's like landing
Yes.
on any big publisher nowadays. You can pretty much, you know, you can't mention any story or any book without hitting a dead cat to publishers, because they're these huge publishing houses, and as I understand it, Warden Locke was kind of the same way. So it wouldn't be a stretch for him to have a title that was a Warden Locke title.
Well, it's a coincidence.
And who else is he going to reference?
I don't know.
We'll find out next year.
Well, everybody, it's almost 9 o'clock. So I want to, we should probably be drawing down. Let's thank Don for his paper.
Thank you, Don, for your paper.
Thank you, Don, for your paper. Thank you,
Thanks,
Don.
Don.
Thanks, Don. Enjoyed it.
It was great. I got to say, this is.
And Fabienne's still awake with us.
I know she's
my
still
God.
here, right? It's like 3 a.m, so we have to conclude.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to say thank you, everybody. This has been a fantastic meeting of the Illustrious Clients. Probably the best online Scion meeting I've been to. I know I'm biased, but I've been to a few. This has been great. So I just want to say thanks, everybody. It's wonderful to see you. It truly is. I can't tell you how much I value each and every one of you. And I just want you to all stay safe and have a great Christmas. Have a great holiday. And I look forward to seeing all of you sooner than later in person. We'll see what happens going forward. We may be in person. We may be virtual again. No, not virtual.
Online.
Zooming.
You said the 4-letter word.
So anyway, I just want to thank you all for coming. It's been really wonderful to see you all, every single one of you. So
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Steve.
Thanks, Steve, for
And Vince,
organizing.
Vince, come back. Vince, come back.
Vince.
As often as I can, I promise.
Good to see
all right,
Kathy.
everybody. So we will conclude this meeting as we do every meeting with.
You still want to stand with 21?
What was that?
I had just asked if you still wanted to conclude with 221B.
Oh, yes, but yes, we have somebody to read it. That's, yes. Cal Wilson's going to read it for us tonight.
Oh, okay.
All right. So Cal, take it away.
221B by Vincent Starrett. Here dwell together still 2 men of note, who never lived and so can never die. How very near they seem, yet how remote, that age before the world went all awry. But still the game's afoot for those with ears attuned to catch the distant blue halloo. England is England yet, for all our fears. Only those things the heart believes are true. A yellow fog swirls past the window pane as night descends upon the fabled street. A ghostly gas lamp, a lonely hand splashes through the rain. The ghostly gas lamps fail at 20 feet. Here, though the world explode, these two survive. And it is always 1895.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you, Cal. And thank you, everybody. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Christmas.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
I will hope I see you all in January, one way or another.
We do
So-
too.
Yeah.
Stay safe. Have a wonderful
January
holiday.
10th.
I miss you people. I miss you very much.
It was good to get to see everybody.
Yes.
Alrighty. Good
Good night, everybody.
That?
Good night. The meeting's over.
Good night, all.
Fabienne.
Good night. Thank you, Steve.
Au revoir, Fabienne.
Fabienne. Bonsoir.
Bonne nuit.
Bonne nuit.
Merci. Merci à vous. Merci encore de m'avoir accueilli.
Dormez-vous.
Merveilleux.
bien.
Merveilleux.
Joyeux Noël et bonne année, bonne fête.
Ah,
Merci.
Et vous, Fabienne?
Quoi?
Et vous? Et vous, Fabienne?
Moi? Oh, thank you.
Oui.
Have a good night,
Fine.
everybody.
Bedtime.
Good night, everybody. I'm going to end
Good
this.
night, all.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, all.
Night.
Good night, all.
Hail and farewell. I'm not going to be the first to leave.
You're not.
So-
But you aren't the first to leave, no.
Okay.
Oh, turned it off.
I'm not sure. Let's see. Leave here. Well, maybe not. Meeting. Oh, there's only the both of us now.
Yes, that's right.
It was great, baby.
Was it?
Yeah. Was nice. I had the impression I was spending the evening with you.
It was wonderful. It was.
And honestly, the members have been so nice to me. Really.
We were so excited that you were there. Seriously, they were absolutely loved it.
I was absolutely what?
They absolutely loved it.
Oh.
Oh no, they're in love with you. They are, I can tell.
Do you think so?
Oh yes, no doubt about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love them too. They've really been very nice to me. I'm a bit tired now, but made you a promise, didn't I?
So late there. Oh my goodness.
Mm. So you know what I'm wearing underneath?
I do. Yes, I do.
But, well, I still am.
So beautiful. You're so beautiful.
You are beautiful too. I would like to be with you right now.
Oh, I would like to be with you too.